Well, hi. Just recording another video. A little bit more details about myself, like I said I would. Um, as I said, I had grown up Christian, but for my own personal reasons, I no longer claim that title. I have no judgment towards Christians, though. I feel we're all entitled to our own belief. I still have a lot of Christian friends, and some Christians, they're very, very good, kind people, and I know that. But there's a lot of them that I also got to know that were not very nice, and a lot of them go to church. And that's a very big reason why I don't claim the title Christian or go to church anymore. Um, it's not that I hate on Christians or church, it's just um, it didn't fit me so well. Didn't fit me very well. And, I didn't feel that I had to carry a title to believe in God. Feel like God is um, a source of energy or a being, a deity that's um, pure love, and maybe all the love that exists combined into one. So pretty much all my feelings of love, and whoever's watching right now, all your feelings of love combined into sort of this oneness and connection of us all, but at the same time, there's such a mass energy that it's sort of its own deity. So that's pretty much how I think of God. So I guess you could say I think God is non denominational. I don't think God's Christian. I don't think God has any religion. I think God can be involved with religion as you can love in religion. Uh, but I also think you can love out of religion. So that's my belief in God, and I didn't feel a need to keep claiming to be Christian in order to feel connected to God. I felt that um, as long as I was connecting in love and being kind to others, and in what way resonated with me, which is sometimes prayer. I don't think everybody has to pray, but prayer resonates with me. So, for me personally, that's being involved and connected to God. Um, but as I said, I think everybody's got their own personal way of connecting into God. I also don't think you need to call God God. So, um, you know, for one, my boyfriend says he believes in fate. So, in a sense, to me, that's what he believes in. In a sense, then that's kind of God. That's what he calls that energy is fate. Um, so he doesn't mind that I call God God, and I don't mind that he calls it fate. And rather than arguing, debating about what we should call it, we just accept that more than likely it's the same source of energy, that this fate, this God, places things in his life that he needs when he needs it. And that I believe this fate, this energy, um, is there for me when I need them too. Um, so, he and I just accept that he calls it fate and I call it God. Um, he accepts that I pray and I accept he doesn't. And uh, so, yeah, I know that's probably not something people saw coming. Most people, I noticed they get into a relationship with someone that pretty much agrees with everything, or nearly everything, or a lot of things. Um, very, very compatible, opinionated in opinions. Me and him are different. It's more like we're compatible in our nature to just accept and love somebody for who they are. So, as for our belief systems or uh, opinions, Actually, excuse me, I yawned. Sorry. But yeah, in opinions and beliefs, he and I actually can be very different. But we accept the other, and we also accept that in a sense we believe in the same thing. We just call it something different. um, but yeah, so yeah, I was raised Christian. I have that background and everything. I just chose not to carry that title anymore. I didn't feel very comfortable with it. Um, because I saw how a lot of Christians could judge people, and it made God look like some really nasty, mean, ugly, not nice person. Um, and every time I said I was Christian, I always had to explain I wasn't like other Christians, or I didn't judge, or this and that and the next thing. And eventually I just had to come to terms that, I really don't fit the Christian profile. I'm not very judgy at all. And I realized that I don't need that title to feel connected to God. So I just came to terms with that and accepted that, and just chose to express myself as non-religious but spiritual. That my path is my own personal path. I don't expect anybody to follow it. And they're all free to follow their own personal path that is good for them. And that's how I feel. So that's personally how I feel about stuff. Um, I also want to explain things a little better from my last video. When I said that I grew up in a very fear-based environment, that was true. But I was talking about how I won't say my name. Um, my part of that fear-based environment was teaching me never to put my name on the internet because anybody could steal it, anybody could try to steal my identity, and I'm sure that's all true and all. I don't know if mentioning my first name is all they need to do that though, but better safe than sorry. So, and aside from that, there because I grew up in a fear-based environment, there's a lot of things today that I'm struggling with. Um, you know, uh, Pretty much learning certain things are not normal, and that certain things are okay and certain things are not okay. Um, I, I probably can't even get into what all those things are. It's just there was a lot of things growing up. Uh, but yeah, so there's still a lot of things affecting me. I guess one of the things you could say was trusting men. I had a very, very big difficulty trusting men. Uh, and with my boyfriend, it was a very big leap for me that I'm very glad I took. I'm very glad I took that leap. And he has just been amazing and sweet the whole time. Never judging me and never expecting me to change, but being very supportive and everything that he knows I'm working on myself in. He's just been a very good, beautiful, amazing, awesome man. I mean, I just love him. He's been awesome. He's been wonderful. Um, but, as I said, there's things to this day that will affect me. Kind of like how I won't even mention my name because I was taught that that was not a good thing to mention on the internet. So even if it's a normal thing to do that, I don't know it is. So I am kind of still learning to rewire my brain in certain ways. Uh, like my boyfriend has helped a lot with that. He is like I said, he's just been very supportive and very sweet. Some things like I still have a problem with self blaming. Like there's things that I've told him, and he was just like, That's normal," and I was like, "What?" That's normal to do that. So he's been very helpful. um, and some things that I am expected to do all the time, he's just like That's not normal. And he's like That's they're really taking advantage of you. And I'm like, thanks. I mean, I already did feel like I was being taken advantage of, but um, it was just really good to have that support and have somebody there with me who just kind of confirm it and help me be able to grow more. Oh, sorry, yawning. I guess I'm a little sleepy. Um, but yeah, and okay, I'm tired and trying to get my brain together right now. When I mentioned that I was expected to fix my parents' marriage, um, I do not mean that was literally on a chore list, like fix our marriage. I just mean parents will sometimes do things, I think, unintentionally, but they are putting a lot of pressure on you to do something, and they have no idea how much pressure they're putting on you to do that, and they're kind of making it your chore and your job, literally, to do it when they really shouldn't. Um, when my parents' anniversary was coming around, oh, I was always being told to remind my dad their anniversary was coming up. Um, or when my dad had made my mom mad, my mom would send me to my dad and literally tell me that she told him to fuck off, or that he's an asshole, or he fucked up. And for a child, that's very conflicting because you're one told don't swear growing up, and then you're being told to go to tell your dad to fuck off. It's like, and it was an environment where we were very, very much taught to obey our parents. Um, like to disobey them once was like looked at like blasphemy. My dad was the one that really pushed a be obedient thing. Um, my mom didn't push to be obedient, but there was this anxiety to have to be obedient to her because there was hell to pay if you didn't. And I don't mean there was just a simple spanking for this. I mean screaming and yelling, and you have to prove your loyalty to her. You have to prove this and that. So there was very much pressure to be obedient to her as well. And my dad, had us afraid that God would punish us. He had us afraid that God would damn us. I mean, he made us afraid. I mean, you hear about having the fear of God and such. I mean, this was actual fear. I mean, real fear. This was not just being afraid of God's disappointment. I mean, we were afraid God might come down and punish us himself. I mean, my dad literally had us scared of God. Um, so he would really push children obey your parents, for this is the commandment with a promise. Um, and that scripture was like really drilled into us. What was that promise? I'm not really sure. We were never told. Just that it was one with a promise. So we're just like, I guess we just used our imaginations as children, like, okay, a promise for protection, a promise for long life. I'm not really sure, but we'll just, I guess, fill in the blank there. Um, but he had us terrified. So when my mom told us to go tell dad, fuck off, we were terrified not to listen to her because we were terrified God would punish us. He would be really, really angry. And at the same time, we were terrified because it's not okay to swear. So pretty much, we were more terrified disobeying our parents than we were to swear. So pretty much, would just hope God forgave us for this and would understand we're kind of stuck. We were commanded to. And in fact, that's something my dad really did push on us too. Was that If it came between disobeying your parents or disobeying something God said not to do, because your parents said to do it, then you better do it because God will forgive you because you're only obeying your parents. So, yes, we had more fear of disobeying our parents than disobeying God because we were afraid God would be angry with that for us disobeying our parents at all. So, when it came to mom telling us to go tell our dad to fuck off, yeah, there was, had to, or we were terrified God would be angry with us. And we were just hoping God would forgive us and be understanding that we're kind of stuck. We don't have much of a choice. We've been commanded by a parent to do so. Uh, you know, sometimes when we go in there, I personally at least would say, "Mom said it, not me. I'm sorry. I don't like swearing." Uh, you know, so this is what I meant. Like it was put on me to be responsible for my parents' marriage. I had to try to show my dad all he was doing wrong because my mom would tell me like tell your dad he's doing this wrong, tell your dad he's doing that wrong, and I would have to go tell my dad. And if I wasn't pushy about it, then my mom would look at it like it was a disloyalty or I didn't try hard enough. So it was like it really was put on me as a pressure to fix their marriage. It was put on me as with the pressure to help my dad see what he was doing wrong and that would fix their marriage. And I would get very frustrated with my dad. Like, why was he not listening? Why would he just continue to be this mean person making mom upset? Um, you know, and this is, well, yeah, just making mom upset and not trying to fix their marriage at all. And then I would feel like I failed them because I couldn't help dad see, and I couldn't word it just right to help him see. Uh, it's only been through the past couple few years that it finally occurred to me that this is not my responsibility. That's my parents' marriage. This is not anything to do with me. This is not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to help him see. That's his ignorance. That's his ego if he doesn't want to see. And that's her ignorance. That's her ego if she feels that she needs to try to fix him rather than work on her own healing. I've reached a point in my life now that I feel that they both have problems. They're both very controlling. They're both ego. Well, my dad's very egotistic. My mom's this complicated person that can be very loving, but she can do very, very mean things. Uh, this is probably gonna sound weird to some people, but have you ever seen the movie Tangled? Disney's Tangled with Rapunzel and all that. Do you remember the witch that raised her as her mother? Do you notice how manipulative she could be, but at the same time, it's almost like she did have a love for Rapunzel. I mean, why take care of her and you know uh, be loving towards her unless she really did love her? I don't see how anybody could give that much love unless there really is love inside them. Uh, my mom, she has done very nice things, but like I said, also she's very manipulative, kind of like that character. I think her ego and her greed and her manipulativeness override whatever love she had for Rapunzel. It's the same for my mom, with my mom. When she's angry about something, or maybe she's feeling that pain she went through before, instead of trying to find healing or remember that she's loved, the need to hurt somebody as bad as she hurts, that ego, that to be manipulative and a bully, it overrides whatever love she feels at that moment. Um, So I do not pity her or give her any excuses like, "Oh, she's only being manipulative to me because she's hurting." No, that's a choice. You can choose to be manipulative or you can choose to find healing. But all the same, I understand she's been hurt. I understand she's been abused when she was a child. I understand she wants love and she doesn't feel she's getting love from her husband. So I understand that there's pain there, but that does not make it right for her to hurt me or somebody else. It just means she rather hurt someone rather than heal, which says a lot about her character. So pretty much my mom's a bully that I want to just be honest with and give her a hug at the same time. um, so yeah, and my dad, I believe he was abused as well. He's told me about things that happened when he was a kid, but he does not seem to grasp the reality that he was abused. He does not seem to grasp it at all. He seems to think it's okay. Um, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't think it's okay with the verbal abuse he's gone through. By the actions he gave when I was growing up, it does tell me he thinks it's okay. I mean, he was definitely very verbally abusive, and I definitely expected more from children than what should be expected. And I think he honestly did it for the same reason my mom does. It's because they're no longer under that environment where they're controlled, and now that they're the environment that they can be the controller, they got addicted to it. Um, now my mom can be the controller and the manipulator, and she's addicted to it. My dad now can be the controller and the person who's demeaning and just emotionally abusive. I mean, just very messed up. And he's addicted to it. He's very egotistic, to be honest. Um, and you, it just, I honestly can't even begin to describe what it's like with my dad. Because honestly, if you were to meet him, you wouldn't know. He will keep it hidden very well. As does my mom. When you meet her, she'll keep a smile on and act like the sweetest peach you've ever met. And my dad will act like he's this wise, intelligent old man. Uh, but behind closed doors or in private or subtly, my dad is just an asshole. Um, and when he gets caught in being an asshole, then he'll, turn around and be like, oh, I didn't mean it this way. I meant it that way. You just misunderstood me. He doesn't change his mind about what he meant if he doesn't get caught. But if he does, then all of a sudden he starts twisting his words. But if he doesn't get caught, then no, he'll keep being that way and he won't care how badly he's hurt his children. Um, just another thing to explain how bad my dad is. I mean, he wanted to spank us all the time. And when I mean spank, I don't mean like your normal, typical spanking. I mean, if he grabbed a hold of one of us, he would just sit there and keep welling on our ass until I guess he felt better or something. So this was not a normal spanking. Um, and I think people did know what was going on because there was plenty of times. I mean, CPS got called. I mean, there was plenty of times CPS had been to our house. But growing up and it just being called a spanking, uh, you know, nobody the CPS, they're just like, that's it. You just got spanked. You were asked to do your chores and you got spanked because you didn't do them. In fact, there was one CPS guy that really got agitated with us. He was like, there's four of you here. You can clean this house, all of you combined together with no problem. And he's like, and I better not be called out here again. So he got very agitated, but we didn't call him, so I'm not really sure why he was getting agitated with us. We didn't throw a tantrum, and clearly we didn't act disrespectful to him. Uh, I'm not really sure who called him, but I guess they got things a little dramatic because he did say something to the effect like there's no feces on this wall or anything like that. So it's like I think somebody probably did call him and maybe over dramatize it than what was going on, but still pretty bad. You know, as I said though, I think somebody knew something was going on because there was CPS at our house often enough. And but not knowing what else to call what was done to us other than spanking, you know. So CPS didn't understand what was going on. They were just being told we got spankings, and we were telling them all we got was a spanking for not doing our chores or something. Uh, so we did not know how to express to CPS of I don't know what chore I didn't do because I wasn't told to do any chore, and I did clean the house like I was told to do. We did not know how to express that my dad was just obsessive and maybe there was nothing that needed to be done. He just wanted to whip somebody's ass until he felt better. And I'm very, very almost positive times he did. I still remember sometimes he came home from work, and a few times he had literally grabbed up one of us by our legs and was hanging us upside down and would just sit there and beat our ass while we thrashed in pain, naturally. And uh, we did not know how to express that to CPS though. Um, all we knew was we were told we were spanked. And, growing up, I knew other children got spanked, but I also knew it wasn't the same as what we were getting. But as I said, I did not know how to express that. And I was taught like a robot that, I did wrong, so I deserved it. So I also, again, did not know how to express to CPS that, well, I am an obedient child and I do what my parents tell me to do. My dad's just beating my ass because he's bored or he's upset about something at work or he just is feeling anxiety and does that until he feels better. I did not have that knowledge to express to them, which I think is very, very sad, because going through that myself, I know then that there's other children out there that do not have the language nor the words to express to CPS, hey, this is what I'm going through. CPS, they'll ask, you know, typical questions of concern like, have you been touched? Where were you touched? Uh, you know, have you been hit? Where were you hit? Uh, you know, but being that we were getting spankings and it was going on our butt, uh, we did not know how to express that my dad was using strength that you should not use on a child. I can still remember what it felt like, and I still stand by that. He used strength that you should not use on a child. I remember my dad getting so bad that, in such a rage that he's not paying attention, when he's grabbing kids and slinging them around, that where they land and they're getting knocked into walls. And it got really bad. I admit I did at 14 years old. Look at my dad. He was in the living room, and I walked up to him and I said, "You need to stop. You need to stop this." I said, "I'm not scared of you. You're gonna hurt somebody. You're gonna end up hurting somebody bad, and I don't want my siblings' arms broke. I don't want anybody hurt. And if anything so happens as a bruise, I will call the cops." And I can tell you from that point on, yeah, we still got our spanking, but no longer were we being yanked up by our legs. No longer was he throwing, you know, grabbing up kids and yanking them to where they end up slamming up against the wall because he's that much in a fury. He's not even paying attention where he's tossing them out of their room because he's angry that they didn't clean it. Which tells me very much so that he had an awareness what he was doing was wrong. And he very much so had an awareness that it would get him arrested. And, I think to this day he still doesn't, I know to this day he still doesn't think it's wrong. Because at first, when I would bring it up with him and ask him why he would do that, he would first tell me that, I'm sorry, you don't understand, I did what I had to do. And after enough times of me getting angry with him, and I was like, are you kidding me? That is not something you have to do. You do not have to grab a child up by their ankle and hang them upside down. For God's sakes, I was 5'4" when you did that to me. So I was the size of at least, I was of at least adult size. I was not, a short 14-year-old or an average size 14-year-old. I was pretty tall. So the fact he could lift me up and do that, I'm like, what kind of rage do you have to be in to do that? And what makes you think this is okay? So, yeah, I got pretty mad. And after enough times of that, he just keeps saying he doesn't remember it happening now. So I do not believe that for 1 second he doesn't remember. I just think that he thinks it's okay what he did still. And I think he doesn't want the consequences. I think he just wants people to agree it was okay and sweep it under the rug and apologize for being disobedient children when we never were. I mean, we were terrified to disobey our parents, for God's sake. So uh, now you have a little bit more background on my dad. And my mom, as I said, she could be very sweet but very manipulative at the same time. I think she has a lot of issues. I don't really know if she can work through these issues fully if she ever had counseling. Maybe she could work through some, but I don't know if she'd be able to work through all of them. Uh, but miracles can happen. But as I said, she clearly has a lot going on in her head. One, wanting somebody to hurt as bad as she does, or to hurt someone like she was hurt. Kind of like a bully that's being abused at home. They go to school and all of a sudden they're bullying other kids to release that stress, the pain they're going through. They're hurting others the way they hurt, so that they can forget for one moment that they're the ones hurting. Uh, so it's kind of like in their mind, they're reversing roles is what's going on. They're becoming the abuser instead of the abused. Uh, they're switching roles instead of finding healing. Um, so yeah, and she has a very much so a jealousy problem. I mean, ever since I can remember, she's accused my dad of cheating on her. And I'm not sure he really has. And ever since I can remember, a lot of times she would accuse me of wanting another mom to be my mom. And I mean, she would be screaming and yelling at me about this, and I would be to the point of tears and just begging her to know. No, mom, I love you. You're the only mom I want to be my mom. Those other moms are just my friends. I don't want them to be my mom. And yes, these moms were my friends. When I was reaching of adult age, naturally, you have friends that are moms at that point. And I was very mature for my age, so I often didn't really talk with people my age. I was talking to people about 10 years or so older than me. There was a few people my age I would talk to and that I liked, but a lot more people that I talked to that were about 10 years older than me. And so um, I would say more often now I'm talking to people more my age. Uh, but I guess that's because now I'm of the age that I used. Now I'm of the age of the people that I used to talk to when I was younger. I would be like 20, 21 years old and wanting to hang around the 30-year-old moms. And here my mom would be screaming at me that I want them to be my mom too, and not her. And it's like, dear God, are you kidding me? These women are 10 years older than me. Oh, hell no. But she had a very, very big jealousy problem. So and she would even get jealous if we had friends. It was just crazy ridiculous, to be honest. If you wanted to go hang out with your friends, it was and you were starting to hang out with them more often, not more often than your family, but more often than, usual that you would hang around a person, then my mom would get very angry and start accusing us of not being loyal to the family. So she has very deep rooted issues with jealousy and a very obscure view of loyalty. um, like her idea of loyalty is uh, not the idea of everybody else's loyalty. It's more so, obey her and do everything she tells, and you be her robot. And I don't even think she knows that. I, you know, I, like every parent, I think that maybe she meant well, but she didn't realize the impact of control and making her children robots that she was doing. I really don't think she knows that at all. And, maybe I'm wrong because I can tell she's very manipulative. So, like I said, there's still stuff in my head I'm clearing up. Like, for all I know, she was being manipulative on purpose the whole time. So, it could be that she just has issues, and it could be she's just very manipulative, and I'm still coming to terms with that. Um, but, there are cases I know she's being manipulative. I have no doubt about it. Um, But other cases, I guess I just want to forgive her and love her and think, you know what, she just messed up and she needs help. Um, but as I said, she has done things that were nice that I kind of feel like it was a way of being manipulative now. Like, she could get very angry and tempered, and then she would apologize later and be like, your father just really hurt me. It made me sad, and I'm so sorry, children. I didn't mean to get angry with you. To me, that was taking responsibility for her lack of self control and putting it on my dad. I mean, he's an asshole and all, but that's not his responsibility. That was hers. That's no excuse for her to release her stress on us because she's angry with him. You know, that's no excuse. You should not put that on your kids. Um, and then, sometimes she would stand in between him and us and, demand he wasn't going to spank us for that. And growing up, I thought that was because she was trying to protect us. And now I realize that protecting us was a really big part of her manipulation to gain our trust. So that, you know, we would give excuses every time she got mad at us and give excuses every time she threw a fit or did this or did that. We would give excuses because of the small acts of kindness she did do. Because we're like, well, mom's good. She would never really hurt us. And then we would give excuses like, oh, she was just stressed, or dad just hurt her, or this, or that person upset her. So we would give excuses for her bad behavior. Um, I guess because when you're growing up, you need to believe someone actually genuinely loves you. So it's very difficult how I feel about my mom. I believe in some sense, kind of like that character from Tangled, that she loves her children. But I also think that that love is very much so overridden by something else that she really needs help with. Um, so yeah, there's a bit about my mom, and now you have a bit more understanding of also why I said that it was made my job to fix my parents' marriage. I don't mean it was put on a chores list. I meant that there was so much pressure to do so, and something I couldn't achieve. That was up to my parents to fix their marriage, which clearly they didn't do. Um, so yeah, a little bit more about myself is I actually have two sisters and one brother. The one sister I have already described to you a little bit. Um, she's not the baby of the family, but she's the baby sister. In fact, her and my brother, when we were growing up, were referred to and called the babies. So I guess you could say they were both the baby of the family. Um, and him and her really were not expected to do much at all. While me and my other sister, um, we're expected to do the chores in the house and pick up our toys and keep our room cleaned up and, things you would expect from a kid, usually. But if we messed up once, it was just, uh, but then again, the house was never clean to my mom. It's still never clean to her. I think she honestly wants it, as I call it, catalog clean. A clean that really does not exist. Um, she does not understand that, we live here, so it's a house we live in. All you're going to get is clean house clean. You're not going to get a catalog clean where there's no dust and that you could almost smell the lemony fresh scent coming out of the pictures. That those are homes that aren't lived in, so of course they look super freakishly clean. Um, and I think that's the kind of clean my mom wants, and at the same time, that's absolutely impossible when I'm having to clean up after her and my sister and my dad. And when growing up, again, it's impossible to keep all that exactly perfectly clean. When me and my sister were cleaning up after our baby sister and our baby brother and our mom and her dad, uh, it is not going to stay clean. It's gonna get as clean as you can get it, but that's about it. So her, like I said, my baby sister and my baby brother were not expected to do much, and my baby brother more than anybody was spoiled. I mean, he had a very, 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 very bad temper. I remember him sometimes walking up to me and asking random questions, and I wasn't sure why, but wanting to be a good sister and feel like, okay, he has a question, and I would answer it, and I was very stupid and naive, and it's not till later days that I realized, oh god, that was a trap. And I stupidly fell for it every time, because right afterwards he would just scream at me. I mean, he didn't even hesitate to scream. He would just be like, "Oh no, you are wrong," and he would just get mad, and he would scream and yell, and he would corner me. I've literally been in a corner multiple times because he would back me up into a corner and continue to scream at me, even when I was at the point of tears. And I admit at first, like probably when I was 13, 14 years old, I argued back. Okay, I was a kid too. It's something kids do. You argue. But, of course, as I grew older and matured more, I eventually stopped going along with these little rants he was having. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to convince you, and you're not going to convince me. Why can't you just be at peace with that then? I'm totally cool you disagree with me. So, eventually I grew up and matured and realized it was unimportant to have people agree with me. It was unimportant that that we had to agree. It was okay for us to disagree. But he never reached that point. And it's probably because, when we got, growing up, my mom would, pretty much the way I put it is tag team with him. She would hear the yelling and screaming from my brother and would come up even when I was sitting there crying and be like, "What is going on here?" And then, when we would explain, and I was just like, he's mad because he thinks I'm wrong, and I'm like, I just want us to stop. I don't know why he's yelling at me. I'm okay with this stopping. And my mom and my brothers, pretty much, he would just be like, well, she's wrong, and I'm right, and she may be mad about it. And my mom would always pretty much pat him on the shoulder and be like, I'm sorry, baby, she made you mad. Go sit and watch some TV. And that's exactly what he would do. Just go into the living room, sit and watch TV, and then she would continue to yell and scream at me and would pretty much say, why'd you make your brother mad? And it's like, you know, and after so many years of going through this and growing up like that, I learned there was nothing I could say. I learned it was already predestined in her head. I had done wrong. It was already predestined. I was in trouble. It was already predestined. I was going to be told that I had the attitude and I was tempered, and that I was going to be told to go to my room, which was the only piece I was looking forward to at the end of that. And sorry, to be honest, it was very, very hard going through that because I would just be bawling and crying and feeling like nobody heard me or listened to me. It was just already pre-chosen I was in trouble. So, she would scream and yell at me for a good long while, and finally I was allowed to go to my room. And I have to say I was very close to my other sister, because I felt like she was the only one that listened. I mean, she would sit in the room with me sometimes, and she would sometimes be like, "Yeah, I know he antagonizes you," and I saw him, and I saw him sitting there, yelling and screaming at you, and you know, but she's no longer, in contact with the family. She's disconnected from all of us, and I gotta admit that hurts because she disconnected from me. You know, her and my mom were at each other's throats ever since I can remember. Uh, and honestly, I think they're both just as prideful. They both got to be right. It wasn't like with me and my brother where I'm all like, look, I'm okay with you disagreeing. Can't we just let this go? It would be they both had to prove the other wrong. They both had to. And then after she came back in our lives, they were right back at it, just less screaming and yelling, and more subtle with the, well, I'm right and you're wrongs, and more in between the lines kind of speaking. But at that time I stayed out of it. Beforehand, I always tried to help the other see through the other's eyes. Like, there's nothing wrong with this, or there's nothing wrong with the way they see things. Why do you want to make them believe that? And, between my mom and my sister, it was my mom believed that it was your place as a woman to be at home and cooking, and you should not have a job. And my sister, on the other hand, believed that it was a woman's right if she wanted a job, and it was a woman's right if, it was right for a husband to help the woman in the house. It's his house too. He should help clean it. And I didn't see a problem with that, with her wanting equality. That to me is a pretty good view. And all the same, I felt if what was working for my mom was working for her, then she shouldn't be judged for that either. Uh, did I agree with it being pushed on everybody? No, I really did not. But I felt it was working for her. But clearly also, as that was not working for her, as she's not happy, neither is my dad. But that's their choice how they want to live. Um, and trying to enforce or push a new view on them, I don't think is going to help. Uh, you know, but so when my sister came back in our lives again, I honestly just stayed out of it and let the two of them just keep talking in between the lines. Like, I still remember one of the arguments, them, more subtly arguing was when her and her husband were going to buy a new car because their car was no longer working. And my mom was very insistent that all they had to do was replace this thing. And she's like, wouldn't you rather spend less money than spend all that money on a new car? And my sister was like, pretty much, she just kind of set the ground rules down and she was like, we're getting a new car. um, but my mom had to keep insisting that she was right. And, I stayed out of it. I was like, inwardly, I was thinking, is it really that bad to take mom's advice? Because it is less money to spend. And the other part of me was also thinking, you know what? It's her choice. This is her husband and her choice. This is not my mom's choice. And this is why I say my mom's controlling. There was no, this is what we're going to do, and my mom just leave it be. It had to keep being very, very persistent. That, until she had her way. So both of them are very, very stubborn. Um, But that's mostly the reason why I'm hurt by my sister, because I never picked a side between them. And yet she would cut off from me, not once but twice. It hurt me very bad. Um, and if she would ever contact me again, I think I would give her a choice, but I would really need to know she's sorry for cutting me off like that, being so angry with mom that she has to punish everybody else too. Because that's just as bad as mom being so angry and hurt by one person, having to punish other people that had nothing to do with her abuse. So that's just as bad, But if she could apologize for that, then I would know my sister has at least some difference from my mom, and that maybe she grows up and maybe she learns to try to heal rather than punish everybody. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But uh, you know, it would help my heart a lot because I did feel very close to her when we were growing up. So it hurt really bad when she did that to me. Um, but yeah, so I guess now you have a better view about my family, like my mom and my two sisters, my dad. Uh, that my brother is very, very freaking spoiled. And he no longer talks to the family either. I honestly think that he just got told how he can have more control in his life, and he got told no once, and all of a sudden now he hates our parents. Um, so I don't know really why he disconnected from mom. I understand why he disconnected from dad, as dad was an asshole to all of us. But to disconnect from mom, I wasn't really sure because she spoiled him. uh, but so and then there was my baby sister, who is very, very spoiled, I would say too. But I'm not sure she has the same heart or personality as my brother. I think that's the difference, to be honest, because he had a very bad temper, and my sister, on the other hand, I wouldn't call her tempered. I think she just really would have a good heart if she had a better view of reality, and had a better grasp of reality. Um, it might be tough on her at first because that's a whole new world of not being spoiled anymore. Uh, as for my brother, I mean, when he got into the real world, all of a sudden he was depressed and he didn't have dreams and didn't believe in things anymore and didn't believe that he could have success. So, technically, just a spoiled little brat that got a hit of reality. And instead of having the perseverance of somebody else that might have that had, very good discipline growing up and a very good structure, and, he just kind of crashed and burned because things were not just being given to him because he wanted it. So, you know, I, I, I think that's just evident there why you should not spoil children. The moment they hit the real world, they're going to get depressed and they're going to think that, oh God, there's no reason to dream. That, yes, you should dream. You should dream big, but you're going to have to work for it. It's not going to just come to you. And you got to be persistent. You got to demand it from the universe, to be honest. Uh, you know, but my brother didn't have to work for his video games. He did not have to work for his video game players. He did not have to work for his giant TV. He did not have to work for his motorcycle. He did not have to work for none of it. So it's no wonder why when he got into the real world that just all of a sudden crashed and burned and didn't believe in hopes or dreams anymore. Because they're not just granted to him. He would have to work for it. Maybe over time he'll mature and contact back with the family. I don't know. But clearly that's probably going to be some time if he ever does that again. And my sister, my baby sister, I really don't know if she's ever going to get a good grasp of reality. I think at one point she's going to have no choice. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just speaking this out of factual terms. That, eventually your parents, they pass away. It's not something you like to think about or talk about, but it will happen. And eventually her and my parents are going to pass away. My mom and dad are going to pass away. And she's literally not going to have anybody to turn to spoil her anymore. Um, she can turn to me. She needs a place to stay, and help get on her feet, uh, certainly that. But as for being spoiled, that'll be done. So if she doesn't learn sooner, it will be later. Eventually, she'll have no choice, which is sad because then she'll have to be hit with that, and that's gonna suck because I don't want her to be hit with that. I love my family. I love my brother. I didn't like seeing him depressed like that. I love my sister. Um, you know, and to think about that she probably went through this same thing with mom bashing her the way she does me. Uh, I don't like that she didn't know how appreciated she was. Um, you know, but and all this being said, then I think you can clearly tell my siblings and I, we all have some sort of trouble. Uh, you know, my brother, he's having trouble facing the real world right now, and he's disconnected from his family. And my sister, my baby sister, having absolutely just she's having trouble grasping what reality is, and that's because it's not being given to her to grasp. So she doesn't even know to grasp it yet. And then there's my other sister who clearly I'm guessing felt underappreciated and has some stubbornness of her own. uh so she doesn't talk to the family anymore. And there's me, who absolutely had absolutely no self-worth at all and felt like I was useless and like to be honest, like a piece of shit that couldn't do anything good. And, you know, uh, it took a lot, it took about 2 years of that counselor to help me see that, I was good enough. And hell, I was the one cleaning the house. So, clearly I'm a good worker. Uh, so don't take myself for granted like everybody else is doing. So I've had help that I needed, and that's good. I'm moving forward. But I did face a lot of issues though, and a lot of those issues was accepting that I am a hard worker, accepting that I was adequate, accepting that I was good enough. Even if nobody else will see it, there was me having to accept this, having to have self acceptance. You know, uh, and none of my family has a counselor right now, so that and whatever counselor my mom and dad ever gone to was in church. Once they went to go see my counselor for their marriage, they didn't like what she had to say. But then again, they've never liked what any counselor had to say. So yeah, but I would say that when you do first go into a counselor, yeah, they're not gonna say things that you want to hear. So yeah, I would always encourage, please keep going. Because you may learn you have stubbornness that you don't want to hear you have. You may learn you're narcissistic. You may learn that you need to learn some self-love. You may learn that you need to quit depending on others to accept you, and you'll have to learn to accept yourself. You're not going to like to hear it, but after going there a certain amount of times, eventually you start to see reason, and you actually get the help you need in life. So I would very much so encourage, yes, go. If you're seeing a counselor or a psychologist, keep going. You may not like what they have to say at first, but keep going. I did not want to hear my mom was verbally abusive because I was trained and taught don't say that. Don't even think it. Or I'm a horrible person for thinking, even letting that thought dance in my head. I was, you know, taught to be a robot, what to think, what to say, what to do, and how to feel. Uh, so far out being a counselor told me my mom was being verbally abusive to me. She had talked with my mom and my dad and my sister over a period of 2 years. So she was giving an educated opinion. It was not just her talking with them one time and being like, well, they're emotionally verbally abusive. This was over a series of 2 years. So she did know them and had talked with them and gotten to know them. And so, but as I said, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to believe it. But kept going, and eventually I came to terms. My mom is emotionally and verbally abusive. And I didn't want to hear that my sister is, but I'm coming to terms and realizing, she's kind of a spoiled little brat, and she knows it, and she purposely keeps doing what she's doing because she doesn't want to get in the line of fire of mom, like mom has chosen to, get pissed off with me for no reason. So she does this on purpose for what she feels is her safety. Um, so yeah. Um, as for my dad, that was no difficulty for me to accept because I mean, come on, how much more convincing do I need that he was abusive? Then he would grab us up by the ankle sometimes and beat our ass because he had a bad day at work. And then would growl at us, "You know what you did," when we're sitting there crying. Like, "What did I do, Daddy?" And, just trying to figure out why he was mad at us, why he was spanking us. When, the blame would get put on us for getting our spanking. But the truth was, I think he just had a bad day at work and was releasing his tension and anger and stress on us. I think that's why he really did what he did. So I really didn't need much convincing about my dad. um, so yeah, that's just a little bit more about me and the background of my life. Um, a little bit more about my siblings, myself, and my childhood. Uh, and I'll do more videos, but for now, this is it. I'm pretty tired right now, and it's kind of late, so I really like to go to bed. So I guess good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're watching this. May you have a good one, and goodbye.